for many parts of the third world, it's eerily relevant. It is extremely scary. Yeah, from sea level rise and from increasing storms. The intensity of storms goes up. That's a bullet later down the list. Finally, I've discussed this before. Remember that zoogenic diseases become more common because people eat new types of bush meat and encroach on wilderness as cities expand. And climate change makes more of us eat bush meat and makes more of us live in cities. You guys remember what it said? Zoogenic diseases? Does anybody want to define this for me? AIDS is a classic example. HIV is a classic example. It used to be PIV. They are diseases that arise in animals. Yeah.
Could that also result in like an increased reliance on like pastoral animals? Because if there's less productive agriculture, can you rely on like grazed animals if there's a hardier?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I don't know. Biju says, would we be relying more on livestock? And if we are relying more on that sounds very credible. I haven't heard anything about that. Probably. Probably. I'd be curious to see this. Okay. Because I'm getting close to the one where I'm getting close to the part where I'm going to need the result, I'm going to ask Daniel. Daniel, what is the pH of your water?
6.8.
And I'm going to give Daniel some really simple directions that apparently a couple of you have already heard. Don't pass out. Keep breathing. But as much as you can, blow bubbles into the... and you may want to put your hands over it so it's not loud. Thank you. Okay. Daniel's going to blow bubbles for a while. Everybody else, ignore Daniel if you can. So anything else about disease? Okay. Number 6 on our list is rising sea level. You should remember from our movie earlier in this unit, sea level rises primarily because of what issue? Thermal expansion. This is the idea that water gets bigger when it heats. Water, like liquids, expand as they get hotter and shrink as they get colder. If you don't believe me, go home, blow up a balloon, put it in the freezer, wait a couple hours. When you get it out of the freezer, your balloon will be smaller than when you put it in there. As the balloon warms up, it'll get bigger because thermal expansion. When things get hotter, they get bigger.
But still, only the surface of the ocean will expand, right?
No, because any part of the ocean that gains heat will expand. And heat gain is not limited to the surface of the ocean because the ocean is circulating. Coincidentally, the bottom of the ocean is heating up faster than the top of the ocean. Weird salinity trick.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. Why? Because warmer water evaporates more, and so it becomes more saline and is more likely to sink. Remember talking about that, like the thermohaline current?
Yeah.
So technically, the place where the ocean is gaining the most heat is on the bottom. Kind of tricky, right? I guess. I mean, it confuses me every time I think about it. All right, anyway. So sea level will rise primarily from thermal expansion, like you said, to a much lesser degree from melting land ice. Sea ice is irrelevant because it's already in the water. Now, when we talk about sea level rise, I have to be really clear, no one's going to drown. It's okay. It's not like it rises all at once. It's not a tidal wave. My students have a lot of trouble explaining why sea level rise is a problem, so I have a nice picture for you. The range of predictions is really broad. Some people lowball at 3 feet in the next 100 years, and some people exaggerate over 30 feet in the next 100 years. But the oceanographic consensus is 21 feet by the end of this century. So 21 feet by the year 2100. And I'll show you a really exciting image.
I have a coffee mug that has like, you know what I'm going to say, right?
I don't know.
It has like the world map on it, and then when you pour something hot, it like erases the parts that would disappear underwater from the forming of the earth.
That's super cool. I didn't know you were going to say that. I'd love to see that.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna do some art project where like in Santa Barbara is gonna draw a blue line.
The thin blue line, coincidentally, check this out. I think I've told you before. Yeah. I think I told you before that students at the end of the year have to choose a project to talk to the public about environmental issues. You will do this after the AP test. So many years ago, my students put up blue ribbons along State Street to show where sea level rise would climb up the palm trees. So they went along businesses and asked them if they could, and then they put a blue ribbon along the windows or near the waterfront along the roof. And on Carrillo, they climbed ladders. So Carrillo, the waterfront? Yeah. On Cabrillo, they climbed all ladders and put little blue ribbons around all the trees to show where sea level would be. That's where it would be. That's 21 feet.
Oh.
In case you guys are curious, this is my favorite demo of the year. Here's me in a climate change future, dipping my feet into the ocean. Because my soles of my shoes are at 21 feet, 1.8 inches right now. Above mean sea level. Exactly, which by the year 2100 will be sea level. That's pretty sweet. Now, this might be good news, this might be bad news. How many of you will live within 1 foot of the beach? Sorry, 1 block of the beach, excuse me. Within 1 block. Okay, wait. If you're going to be within 1 block of the beach, raise your hand. Okay, these are what we might call the winners in this equation.
How much of the mesa do you think will erode?
It's a very scary question. And then the other question is, how many of you will have your house at least partially underwater? These are the losers.
100 years, they'll be all done. Wait.
Yeah, no, yeah. That island is a little hill somewhere. I don't know which hill it is.
I don't know where Montecito is.
Montecito is that way. It's off the
No,
map.
I know, but is that like where the country club is? I know there's a hill there.
Far on the right, that last street is Hot Springs.
Okay.
So Hot Springs and Coast Village is,
It's safe.
forgive me, this is going to be ugly.
It's like.
After Coast Village,
You see where like the zoos and the bird routes.
Back to me, please. Excuse me, back to me. The thing about rising sea level and where your house is relative to the beach. Food fight, seriously? This is just to kind of like put it in context about which parts of town and how many people are affected, but I've got a punchline for this. I'm not worried about you drowning, and I'm not worried about your house underwater. I'm sure you realize before that happens, it'll probably be disassembled. This is not about how it impacts you personally, and I fear that most people, when they talk about rising sea level, have the wrong fear. Don't worry about drowning, and don't worry about your house. But have you guys heard about Santa Barbara's budgetary problems? We're like struggling to figure out how much to charge for parking. And, like the lady who runs our city budget has been in hot water, and she wants to quit her job and move to Orange County. You guys have to know about this. Imagine how much it would cost for Santa Barbara to avoid problems in the next 100 years. So fast forward to the year 2100, how do you plan to pay for moving the freeway, moving the railroad tracks, the wastewater treatment facility, that many people getting new homes? You'll get new homes in Santa Barbara, you know, but look at what's underwater. The harbor, obviously. All, you know, our business sector.
The 21-foot wall.
Yeah, like much of the freeway, obviously.
You think that's having gradually though, like each thing will happen.
Exactly. This will be incremental. No one will drown.
Well, maybe someone.
Who cares? Few people will drown. I mean, look, the thing about sea level rise is it's not a typhoon, it's not a tsunami. You can push your wheelchair out of the way, and if you fall off the wheelchair, you can drag yourself out of the way. It's okay. But think about the economic implications for a city like Los Angeles. Roughly 1/3 of downtown LA is within 21 feet of sea level. Our species as a whole, 1/3 of humans live within 300 feet of sea level. So what will happen to their economies if not their homes? What will happen to their water treatment? As sea level rises, our groundwater gets too salty to drink. As sea level rises, our wastewater is harder to deal with, and we may not be able to treat it. In Santa Barbara, we'll be able to afford it, but what about in Bolivia? In case you didn't know, Bolivia has 80% of their sewage put out to the ocean untreated already.
And the second place country.
Yeah. Yeah.
So would this just be like all wetlands?
Probably not.
All sorts of wetlands, like, or will they be able to survive? So, like, is it slow enough so that they can just recede?
It's an interesting question. Like, for one thing, this rate of change is unprecedented. Sea level's gone up and down a billion times in the past, but slowly, so it didn't really matter. Without human stuff in the way, yeah, biomes are a lot more flexible than human benefits. Your biome can drift with sea level pretty easily. Your wastewater treatment plant cannot. Okay. Number 7. Hey, Daniel.
Right?
Hey, what's your pH?
I don't know.
Oh. Where was it when you started?
6.8.
And where is it now?
6.72.
Can anybody explain to me why Daniel Exhalings has lowered the pH of his water and not used? CO2 into the water? What's that got to do with it? There was this rule that I asked you to remember. Earlier in the class, I wrote it up here. Before that, I wrote it over here. The rule is
Oxides plus water equals acid.
oxides plus water equals acid. That's right. Carbon dioxide is obviously an oxide. You mix it with water, you get carbonic acid. You're right. And number 7 is the acidification of the ocean. A surprising impact of global warming is not actually the warming, but that the CO2 has another bummer. Our ocean's becoming really acidic. I'd like to show you a really interesting factoid about your body. This is perfectly neutral. 7.0 is what we call neutral. Your body is slightly acidic, I believe. Your blood is the same pH as the ocean. So anybody know what that is? 6.8? Just guessing? Yeah, 6.8-ish, whatever. Please look up. Your cells regulate to the thousandth place. If I can switch your blood's pH up or down by 100th place, you've died. Most life in the ocean is equally sensitive. It's happened a little bit more slowly, so it hasn't killed a lot of stuff yet, but pH in the ocean has changed by 1/10 already. The first people to discover this were people who farm oysters. Raise your hand if you like to eat oysters. Like me, I love them. That's too bad. If you raise your hand, you can put on one of these. Because it's gotten increasingly difficult to grow oysters, they're going to disappear from your food supply in the near future. Different parts of the ocean have different amounts of acidification. It has something to do with mixing and how much deep water rises. If someone wants to explain to me at another time why acidic water sinks, go ahead, but not now. For some reason, the most acidic stuff goes to the bottom, and so the big question is how close your invertebrates are to that mixing.
There was a documentary where they like showed the shells of snails or something. You could like see them melting.
No kidding.
You could like